how can they get farther than a loss in the wild card round this season?
First, it starts with finishing the season better. They have to find a way to win those games later down the stretch. I think that's going to be the biggest thing for them. When I was in New England, the one thing we always talked about was football starts after Thanksgiving. That was the model there, because we looked at the first 4 weeks and it was just, all right, weeks 1 through 4, like, we're just figuring it out. Like, we don't know who the starters are definitely going to be. We don't know what the chemistry, what the lineups are going to be. And then you kind of get stuff going after that. You start to win a few games, you may lose one, you bounce back. But then after Thanksgiving, it was just like, all right, we have to turn it on. And New England hasn't done that. They've been 23-11 in the beginning of the season, and then they finished the season 6-9 over the last 3 seasons, as you see right there. In 2019, we were rolling. We were undefeated 8-0. We go down to Baltimore, we hit the Lamar Jackson train and get rolled on. We finish out that season, we lose that last game to Miami at home, lose our chance to go and get a bye week to start the playoffs, and that was the beginning. That next week, Tennessee rolls into town. Logan Ryan has that interception on the last career Tom Brady pass, and that was kind of the end of that era. So I think for those guys, they have to start to finish the season off better. Football starts after Thanksgiving. They're going to hear Bill say that in the meeting room this year. They have to actually start to do it.
Can we appreciate what Mac Jones did last year? Think about this. Cam Newton comes in as one of the most gregarious personalities in the league, one of the most celebrated players the last decade. All the young players love him. And Mac Jones, as a rookie, coming in with the first time stepping on an NFL field, not only beats him out during training camp, but wins the locker room in training camp. That's year one. And then you go to what he did on that 7-game winning streak. Let's see it real quick if we can get the numbers of just how good Mac Jones was at the bulk of the season where it really mattered for them in the playoffs. This is it. 7 wins in a row from week 7 to 14. Was 3rd in the league in completion percentage and 2nd in passer rating. Efficient as all get out. And then the last point I'll make is this. Mac, gosh, the players love him. You talk to a bunch of Patriots now. It's not just Jonnu, who calls him one of the goofiest guys in the world who just turns it on, but every player, Aguilar, we've talked to Kendrick Bourne. These guys love this dude. And as much as we're hyping Trey Lance and Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson and, of course, Justin Fields in year 2, what are they going to do? Don't take Mac for granted. This guy could take a major leap in year 2.
I know.
There's a small corner of sports media, a very small corner, and I'd like to think that I'm a part of it right now. And it includes Mike Giardi up there in New England for us. It includes Bill Simmons on his podcast and his nephew Kyle. And we are like the Mac Jones corner. I said earlier this offseason, give us a dark horse MVP candidate. I'm like, what about Mac Jones? And I was laughed at on this show. Laughed at. And it was like, Mac's not going to win the MVP. What if the Patriots are the team that goes 14-3 this year? What if the Patriots are the team that finishes first in the AFC East? Mac Jones is why I've got confidence this team can get better, because as a rookie out of the gates, he was awesome. And then, gosh, how do we know that's the ceiling? He's lost 15 pounds. He's in a good place mentally, and the players and this coaching staff loves him. Mac Jones propaganda, it starts right here, but I don't think it's propaganda. I actually believe it.
I like the Mac Jones corner. I do, and I think it was awesome what he did, and I think he could make a big leap. His biggest problem is the psychopath in Buffalo, is Josh Allen. I mean, it's like he might make a big leap, but it might not be nearly big enough. I think it's really interesting what's going on with the Bills as it pertains to the Patriots. In the 20-plus-some career of Belichick in New England, who's the best quarterback they've ever had in their division? Opposing quarterback. There's not many.
Pennington?
Chad Pennington on the Dolphins. Brett Favre for 1 year with the Jets. They've never had somebody like that, ever. I don't think they've had anybody even close to that. Josh Allen might be the best quarterback in football this year. I don't know if they've had a top 25 quarterback in the whole league ever in the division. It is a really sneaky thing about the success of New England for all these years is the competition's been pretty bad. So now you have Allen, and we played the playoff game a million times. There was another game where they played for the second time in the regular season last year. It's kind of the forgotten one. You had the snow game, the playoff game. The middle one, Josh Allen destroyed him again. And Mac Jones was not good. And after the game, Belichick kind of went out of his way to hype the Buffalo Bills young quarterback. Take a listen.
He's really hard to stop. He does a good job at everything. And he's continued to grow as a player. And I think you see his leadership, his toughness, his physical ability, all that on a very consistent basis. I mean, he's the guy that makes them go, and he's become one of the top quarterbacks in the league.
And he's in your division, and he's not going away. And I have every confidence in Belichick and Mac Jones and everything. It might just not be enough. You know that boat that he's on, the 7 rings or 8 rings? I feel like he's out there, and he's thinking about Josh Allen. Like, what am I going to do about this guy who is so young and so good, and we play him at least twice a year, and he's never had a problem like this before in the 20-plus years. It's a big deal, really big deal. They got to deal with the Bills.
He's not going away anytime soon.
Well,
It's like, that's what's scary.
I know.
Mac Jones is really good, but here's another big problem. The Bills' defense. Like,
I know.
Josh Allen is going to get all the credit because that's the sexier thing to talk about, and he's so good, and he's all the things that you said, and Mac Jones is all the things that you said, that you can take this huge leap in year 2. But, like, lost in that is that the Bills' defense, they're the #1 defense in the league. I mean, it's just lost in the fact that you were talking about these quarterbacks because they always get the attention. So not only do you have Josh Allen to contend with, let's just say that Mac Jones is playing lights out. Yeah. He's still got to solve a Bills' defense that, took it to him through 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions in those 2 games because you want to throw out the snow game, and then maybe lost in all that as well as all-pro corner Tre'Davious White wasn't available. They were missed. I mean, this is like a great corner. So again, let's say Josh Allen has an average game, right? Or let's say you figure out a way to slow him down. You still have to find a way to put up points against the best team. So then I think when it comes down to it, and we sit here and talk about what do they have to do to go further, you have to solve the Bills, and that's a huge problem, and it's a huge problem. And they added Von Miller, like that defense. You got the #1 defense. The defense didn't get worse this offseason.
And that was the thing. Last year, it almost looked like they did figure it out. If you can remember, there was a point towards the end of the season where New England was the #1 team in the AFC.
Yeah.
They beat Tennessee. They're rolling. They beat Buffalo, like you said, that first game in Buffalo, the snow game. They were rolling. Then they lose to Indianapolis, and then it just all started to go downhill. Like the streak we talked about that Mac Jones was on, 7 games in a row. Their defense was playing well. They were running the ball. They were figuring it all out. But then it all fell apart at the end of the season.
There's been a lot of hubbub outside of New England about the fact that we don't know who the offensive coordinator technically is. We don't know who the play caller is technically. Young quarterback, Mac Jones. Does any of that matter inside the building? You've played there for so many years in New England.
Inside the building, it'll probably feel as though, like, nobody's talking about it. Like, oh, it's not a big deal. We're just rolling. You'll never hear anybody say anything in the media. But if you're a young quarterback, you're Mac Jones, you're only in your 2nd year. Year 1, you have Josh McDaniel, a guy who's been a head coach, offensive coordinator for a long time in this league. Now you come back in year 2, who's the guy you go to say, hey, I want to run these plays this week. Hey, this makes sense to me. How do you take that next step and become a leader? It's definitely going to be a big thing there. It has to be.
Well, and you talked about consistency and stability, and anytime I think even the best guy, no matter how good you saw it with Tom Brady in Tampa, he's still Tom Brady, and he's the best and has done it the longest and all this stuff, but he still had, you're still changing the way that things are communicated to you, so it matters. Everyone can say it doesn't matter. It matters.